Welcome to the Master Cars Pro channel. Today we talk about the problems and weaknesses of this wonderful car. We are starting with the power units as usual. A wide range of powertrains was presented to the choice of buyers of Škoda Fabia 2. Gasoline MPI 1.2 60-70 horsepower, 1.4 86 horsepower and 1.6 105 horsepower, TSI 1.2 105 horsepower, 1.4 180 horsepower, as well as 4 TDI diesel engines 1.2, 1.4, 1.6 and 1.9. Gasoline engines are representatives of the EA111 series. The 3-cylinder HTP engine, which known as weak, is very common in the secondary sector. One of the main weak points of the engine is the smaller source of the timing chain and the unsuccessful design of tension, which can cause a fatal meeting of the pistons with the valves. Fuel injectors and ignition coils are not famous for their reliability. The resource of this is significantly reduced when using low-quality gasoline. Burnout of valves is also considered as a common phenomenon. It leads to a decrease in compression in the cylinders. This disease usually manifests itself after 100,000 kilometers. In addition, this ICA has not very good piston rings, the wear of which leads to a progressive oil consumption. An unstable idle run caused by cocking of crankcase ventilation or throttle is considered as a common phenomenon. The atmospheric engine 1.4 is considered as the most successful in the lineup and bothers only over travels. The main complaints about the ICA are caused by short service life of the ignition elements. The second most popular problem is unstable idle speed due to severe contamination of the throttle assembly or USR. For cars with a mileage more than 150,000 km, hydraulic lifters may require replacement and oil consumption increases. Often overheating of the engine leads to the appearance of an increased oil consumption. The belt of valve trains of this motor can withstand 90,000 km. The piston group resource is about 300,000 km. This motor is considered disposable since initially there were no standard sizes of pistons and piston rings for it. Plus, there are nuances in the reassembly process. In the recent days, there are enough services that perfectly cope with the restoration of internal combustion engines. The 1.6 engine is essentially a copy of the 1.4 engine, only it has timing chain drive with an unpredictable resource of 80-150,000 km and shorter T-shaped pistons. Most of the trouble in this engine is delivered by valves and pistons, in which over time small scuffs appear on skirts, which leads to a knock at cold start. But in fairness, it should be said that these defects do not affect the engine's performance for a long time. Another disadvantage of this engine is weak thermostat, gaskets, fuel pump, slow warm-up and difficulties with the choice of oil. Tightening up with replacing spark plugs reduces the life of the individual ignition coils. As with weaker units, the throttle and EGR valve are very sensitive to pollution. The rotation is flowing. Turbo engines are the most problematic in the lineup. The timing drive is the same as that of the 1.6 atmospheric engine, but due to the fact that there is balanced shaft drive, the chain resource rarely exceeds 100,000 km. The second source of trouble is piston rings, which tend to coke and collapse. And if in the first case this only leads to an increase in oil consumption, then in the second it all ends with scuffing on the pistons and cranking the crankshaft. The electric drive of the turbine geometry and wastegate control is also not reliable. In addition, internal combustion engines are sensitive to the quality of the oil and its level, since there is very large load, especially on the liners. 1.4 engine pistons have poor knock resistance. It should be admitted that VAC diesel engines are not bad, but they are more sensitive to the quality of lubricant than similar internal combustion engines of the other brands. The demand for oil quality is due to the peculiarities of the pump injector drive. These engines were not spared by the troubles typical for diesel units, such as the rapid failure of fuel injectors, fuel injection pumps, EGR and particulate filter. For engines 1.4 and 1.6, in addition to the elements mentioned above, it regularly drives grease from under the plastic valve cover, and in a 1.9 liter engine the geometry of the turbine often fails and saving oil leads to wear of the camshaft cams and hydraulic lifters. Three types of gearboxes were offered: a 5-speed manual 02T, 09G automatic Aisin TF60SN with 6 gears, and 7DSG dry clutch robot DQ200. The mechanical transmission has an impressive margin of safety, and even paired with turbo engine does not often bother with breakdowns. The shortcomings of the manual transmission: the owners note the excessive noise of work in the first 2 gears. The clutch kit can withstand 120 and 140,000 km under moderate loads. The automatic transmission is also quite reliable, but it painfully tolerates overheating and a rare change of lubricant. This box uses a weak cooling system, so you need to regularly monitor the cleanliness of the heat exchanger or install an additional cooling radiator. The problem areas include the torque converter friction lining, which wears out intensively, clogging up the solenoids and hydraulic plate channels. If the box is rarely serviced, that nuisance will lead to oil starvation of the gearbox and its early failure. The robot is not often found, since it was installed only in tandem with turbo engine. In cars of the first years of production, the box did not differ in special survivability. Later the manufacturer eliminated some shortcomings and breakdowns, and after they began to occur less often, but the robot did not become reliable. The main failures of the manual transmission are caused by the wear of the clutch kit, which during urban use may need to be replaced every 40–60,000 km. The situation is no better with the reliability of the electronic control unit. It quickly burns out. Often the mechatronics housing also fails, which cracks when the oil pressure increases. Another DSG sore is the breakage of the 6th and reverse gear forks. In cars with a mileage of 100,000 km, shaft bearings and clutch release fork failures are not uncommon. The chassis of the car does not have outstanding driving characteristics, but at the same time it is quite reliable and not expensive to repair. Most often the stabilizer consumables require attention, which even in cars with a package for bad roads often do not withstand more than 70,000 km. Silent blocks, ball bearings, hub and truss bearings, which quickly give up after serious blows, may require attention early enough. If you do not overload the car and slow down on broken sections of the road, most of the parts will last 80–100,000 km, which is a good result for a budget car. In the steering and pinion mechanism with EGUR is used. There are also versions without power steering. The steering rack bothers infrequently, and in versions without an amplifier it is considered eternal at all. But the pump can ruin your nerves. If you do not change the working fluid system, the pump will clog over time and begin to howl. As a rule, this happens closer to 120,000 km. If you ignore the noise that appears, the pump will periodically turn off at first, and then stop at all and pull rail alone. It should be noted that replacing the pump is a costly affair, about $400. The electric amplifier, which some versions were equipped with after restyling, is generally reliable, which cannot be said about its wiring. There are no special complaints about the braking system, except that only the ABS unit does not please with its work. Consumables of brakes, despite the low weight of the machine, do not please with a long service life. Front pads serve 30–50,000 km, discs up 100,000 km. The paintwork of this model is of quite good quality and remains in good cosmetic condition for a long time. An exception may be cars assembled in Kaluga, on which varnish begins to peel over the years, in the risk zone, the hood, fenders and roof. The interior, all valve made of inexpensive finishing materials and a large amount of hard plastic, looks pretty good even after long and intensive use. On the shortcomings, one can single out only the tendency of plastic panels to get dirty and their creakiness. Poor soundproofing also does not contribute to acoustic comfort. On all the specimens, attention should be paid to the performance of frequently used buttons and switches, since they do not have a long service life. For cars manufactured before 2011 in Russia, the foam rubber in the front seats is quickly destroyed. It crumbles against the sharp edges of the seat frame. On later versions, the manufacturer fixed the problem by gluing the frame with rubber tape. With regard to the reliability of the electrical equipment of the cabin, despite the fact that there are some breakdowns here quite often, most of the problems are caused by power windows and central locking, which may not work correctly if the wiring in the doors is damaged. Well, if you are the owner of this car, then please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your feedback what will help viewers when choosing a car. I'm done. Thank you all very much for your attention. I'm very grateful to you if you subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. See you soon!